And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, Buccaneer fans and listeners. We are live, and we are so happy to have you all tuned in to RBLR Buccaneer Familia. Maybe you're listening from another state or country, or perhaps you're locked in with us on this lovely day in the Bay. Ladies and gentlemen, we are 1 week closer to the start of the off season, so stay optimistic is what I say. Pulling up to the scene, he's repping that all black Buccaneers snapback, or not even snapback, but it's looking like a little dad cap because, he is a daddy. We got Zach Blaine in the house. Zach, how you doing tonight?
You know, that's the first time I've been okay with another man calling me daddy. No, man, I'm just happy to be here. Life is good. How about you, Musab? How are you doing, brother?
I'm doing well. Yeah. Musab in the house with you. I'm feeling real great. Honestly, it's just, I feel like my mood just improves week by week just because, again, as I mentioned already, we're just getting closer and closer. I feel like there's a lot more to go, happening in the NFL and within our Buccaneers organization. But last but not least, to the left, all right, we got the one and only, all right, the Devin White to Zach Blaine's Levante David, except he does more than just show up. Okay, we got Carter Brantley. Carter, how you doing tonight?
Oh man, I'm good. I appreciate the introduction, Musab. It's good to have you introducing us back again instead of having my boring, bland, same old introduction. It definitely gets me more excited. That's for damn sure. But yeah, we're gonna have a great show up ahead of us. I'm really excited to get into it. And like you mentioned, we're 1 week closer to football, so that's always a good thing. But before we get really deep into this episode, I'd like to take the chance. Best of the Bay nomination plug. Check it out. We're trying to get some votes in. They have a Best of the Bay competition where you can vote for the best whatever in Tampa Bay. They have a best podcast section under the entertainment section. I'm talking about creative loafing, by the way, in case you're unfamiliar. You go under best podcast and you write in RBLR Sports. The link is in the description. It's also pinned on all of our socials, including Twitter. So definitely, if you wouldn't mind doing us a favor and checking that out. Also liking and subscribing if you'd like, if you dig what you're hearing, and give us a follow while you're looking at that socials post. But anyways, now on to the actual episode. But before we get into the meat of the episode, I'd like to pose kind of a deep philosophical question, something that's been on my mind. It's a very controversial issue. So get buckled in, geared up, ready to go. This is going to be a hard-hitting, some real journalism going on right here. So is a hot dog a sandwich? Zach, answer the question first.
No, it's not. It is. No. It is in its own little category of, I'm going to call it category of greatness because everyone loves a good hot dog, but there's just so many things you could do with it. I don't think you can classify that as a sandwich, man.
Wow. Okay. Bold first little take.
I know. I'm telling you, man. We might get canceled for this.
All right, Musab, how about you? What is a hot dog a sandwich? You gotta give the listeners your perspective.
Unfortunately, in our society, some comments that are bold are also common sense, and I'm right there with Zach. Seriously. All right, it deserves its own category. You don't call a burger a sandwich. You walk in some mom and pop, little diner and something. You don't say, let me get the, that steak sirloin pulled pork, sandwich or burger or whatever. You know what I'm saying? There's a distinguishment. Same thing with the hot dog. It's a cylindrical shaped kind of protein. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing like it. Okay.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's really about it. It's simple. All right. It's in its own different category. We can't call a hot dog a sandwich. Yeah. But what about you, Carter? How do you feel about this? The way you're smiling, I feel like maybe you might be playing devil's advocate.
Oh, you know me, man. I'm always playing devil's advocate. I'm always the asshole in the group. But my counter to that is that when you go to a restaurant, where are burgers usually listed? They're sometimes listed under sandwiches, right? I don't know.
It depends on where you go to get the burger, though. If you're going just like Olive Garden to get a burger, like yeah, it's gonna be under a sandwich. But if you go like, you're not gonna go get a hamburger or a hot dog at Subway.
Right, but see,
Or
now we're getting into
Firehouse.
this. Now we're getting into this weird gray area. You know what I mean? Like some places it's under the sandwich menu, some places it's its own independent thing. You know, it's kind of weird. And then like, you look up the Oxford definition. It's an item of food a sandwich is an item of food consisting of 2 pieces of bread with meat, cheese, or other filling between them, eaten as a light meal. That last part you can kind of
Now,
do without.
okay,
So
okay.
here's the thing: is a hot dog bun 2 pieces of bread, or
Aha.
is it
See,
one?
we're gonna
No.
go down a whole rabbit hole. That is one loaf of bread with a U cut into it, my man.
Right. See,
Exactly.
that's where I have trouble with it, because if you want to get technical, I don't consider a hot dog bun to be 2 pieces of bread. It's one entity, like you said. So it's kind of it's a conflicting thing. But another important thing is a hoagie roll. They're technically one loaf. I mean, there are some sandwiches that are in hoagie rolls, and hoagie rolls are kind of the same as the bun, the hot dog bun. They're not 2 separate pieces of bread. It's kind of a little morphed thing. Like if you go to Publix, you get a pub sub, you get a turkey sandwich. The hoagie roll, it doesn't, you don't necessarily cut it in
Yeah,
half.
see, that's a good point. Not that Publix is a sponsor, but greatest subs in the world. I promise you, if you haven't had one, go get one. But is that where the term sub comes from? Doesn't it technically mean like submarine sandwich or something like that?
Right. So is a
So
hot dog a sub? Is that what we're saying here?
oh my gosh, you might have just revitalized my whole opinion on hot
Musab,
dogs.
what do you think? Is a hot dog a sub? Is that what it is?
No, it ain't a sub, man. A sub involves a lot more things. And I'll tell you this, man. The way you were commenting about, you can find a hot dog in the sandwich section of a restaurant or something. Let me tell you, that restaurant is lazy, okay? Or all they can offer is just one hot dog. So obviously, you're not going to make a whole section just for one little item. You're just going to blend them all in together, and hopefully you'll expect the customer to read a little bit extra to make sure they're not just getting a hot dog sandwich or something. So no, I still stand by what I said. It's its own thing. I'll tell you this. What Zach said. Yeah, you go to a place like Olive Garden. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if a hot dog's called a sandwich. But if you want a real sandwich, you want a real burger, you want a real hot dog, they're all going to be in their own sections. And I'll leave it at that.
All right. Hey, fair enough. Fair enough. I thought we'd get the brain going, get the mind going, get the competitive juices going a little bit to start the episode. Ask a provocative question. It's just, it's just something to get us started a little bit, get our feet wet, kind of. So now let's transition to some more football related topics. We'll get into some kind of statistic goals this season for the upcoming season. So what are some stats that y'all realistically expect guys to hit this year? Just kind of receiving, rushing, or defensive stats, or maybe you're bold enough to venture that Baker Mayfield has a certain pass threshold, maybe passing yards or touchdown. Anyways, any one of those, you can choose a guy and a stat. What do you expect realistically? Not what you want, but that you think will happen. Zach, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think one of the most obvious, we'll call it a streak to keep alive, is Mike Evans getting over 1,000 yards.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a given at this point, unless, God forbid, an injury. I think that there's no way he doesn't get 1,000 yards. He's our number one guy, no matter who else is on the roster. I don't care if DeAndre Hopkins comes in. Mike Evans is still the number one on this team. So I think the most obvious and most obtainable one is Mike Evans having over 1,000 receiving yards.
Okay, that's a good one. That's definitely, I think, a pretty common one. Musab, how about you? Do you maybe have a different take, or are you more along, yeah, let's go safe route. Mike Evans 1,000 yards receiving is pretty much the only secure one on this Bucs roster.
Yeah, I'll probably say that is probably the safest route, if anything.
For sure.
I definitely expect him to make that happen no matter what. I'm not going to say that I'm not super hype on Baker Mayfield, but I'll tell you this: Baker Mayfield is definitely good enough to make sure that Mike Evans gets his 1,000 yards or more. You know what I'm saying?
Your mouth.
So,
you need to be high on Baker. I'm telling you.
Yeah, we'll see how it happens. I also, Zach, it makes me feel bad when I just keep on yapping on and on. Zach, I think I got some PTSD after, riding the Trask train 2 years ago.
That's fair. That's fair. I get that.
I feel like the conductor just grabbed me by the neck and threw me off that trash train and said, "Welcome to reality." You know what I'm saying? This guy doesn't have much to provide you as you think it does. This train is not taking you anywhere. You know what I'm saying? And I landed in Cleveland. Yeah, and then I met this guy Baker. But anyways, no, I'll probably say I'll just leave it at Mike Evans. 1K yards or more is what I'm definitely expecting for sure. But that's my safe choice. I can't really say anything else about other teammates or other players because we're going through a lot of changes. So we'll see how that works out. But what about you, Carter?
Yeah, I think the Evans one is certainly a safe pick. I think one that I'm expecting, just because I don't really see another guy coming in to kind of usurp him, so to speak. I don't know if I used that word or pronounced that word correctly, but it sounded fancy in my head. But anyways, I think. Thank you. I have Rachaad White running for 1,000 yards this year. I just think 1,000 yards in 17 games as a running back, if you stay healthy, is pretty obtainable. And if Rachaad White's able to kind of maintain that starting role, I mean, Rojo ran for 1,000 yards. It's kind of a, oh, hey, I did use usurp right. Nice. Thanks, Eureka. Thanks, Eureka. But yeah, I really think that Rachaad White can get that pretty easily because, just the Bucs are not going to be a pass-heavy team like they were these past few years with Brady under the helm. I think they're going to have to mix it up, especially just because they can't be as bad as they were last year. That's just not statistically likely. So I feel like, I really think that Rachaad White can do that. It's an obtainable goal. But we'll see how it develops. Maybe someone else comes in.
Now, since we're kind of on the topic of offensive players, I want to get your opinion on kind of what are your realistic stats? Like, this is assuming that Baker is our starter this season, which I think is at this point a foregone conclusion.
But
with Baker being our guy, do we think that what's realistic for him as our starting quarterback? I guess is an easier way to say what I was trying to say.
No, for sure. I think 20 touchdowns and 2,500 passing yards is a relatively realistic goal for him. Okay. Because then it's just kind of I don't know. I don't want to say it's like, I don't want to be lazy and just say, oh, well, he can get that in his sleep, because that's kind of a dismissive way of describing someone. But I do genuinely think that if he's given the opportunity and he's given the chance to kind of just run the offense for the year, that's an obtainable goal. I think the main thing to watch with him is just turnovers. And I hate to be so basic and so, just like that. That's kind of the thing you can say with any quarterback, really.
Yeah, but especially Baker of late. Right. I did a TikTok on our TikTok page, and it was kind of the same thing in my description of him. Is it's got to be it's going to be crazy to see if we get old Baker, who was potent. I mean, he wasn't, again, not an all-pro level guy, but a very good quarterback, or if we're going to get the last 2 years of Baker, who have been mediocre at best.
Right.
I'm excited for Baker. I think that we're going to see a good side of Baker. And I was kind of right there with you. I was a little higher on both. I said 25 touchdowns and 3,000 yards, but not far off from what you said at all. So I think we're kind of on the same page. I don't think we're being too crazy, but not too low on him either.
100%. Yeah, because, it's still the NFL. It's still a pass-happy league. So even the worst quarterbacks in the NFL could still potentially go throw for 200 yards and get a touchdown or two.
Yeah, Justin Fields. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean that.
Yeah, man, Justin Fields. Oh, gosh, we don't want to get into that.
No, we're good.
No, but so kind of moving on to some more hopeful things. What are some, because you mentioned Baker, kind of some ideal scenarios for him. Are there any other guys that you'd like to see? Like for me, a big one is JTS. I'd love to see him finally hit double digit in sack totals. I think that's going to be huge for him this season. If he's not able to get that, then I don't want to say it's over. Like it's never, that's dramatic as hell. Like we're not in that position. We're not in that business, but it's not looking good. If he's not able to get, break through that wall, because he's been kind of plateauing at a certain level. And I'd love to see him take that next step and really play like the first round pick that, he was chosen in the first round. So I'd love to see him play up to that billing. So how about you? Are there any guys that you'd like to see maybe slightly above, maybe not realistic, but still things you'd like to see?
Well, yeah, and I don't think that JTS getting double-digit sacks is unrealistic. I think with the players we drafted this year, it makes it far more unlikely. But
Yeah.
that is like kind of a dream scenario as well on defense. I would like to see Jamel Dean get over 2 interceptions because it seems like that's his plateau. The most he's gotten is 2 at a time. So I'd like to see him be more in the 5 to 7 range. Like I think that would put him relatively high in the leading or in the interception totals for the season. So I think seeing him around 5 to 7 would be nice. Or Devin White to not miss so many tackles, that'd be pretty cool too.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that'd be nice. I think the thing to think about with Jamel, especially this past year, he was really good. So it's tough to evaluate cornerback sometimes solely based on interceptions. But I do
100%.
really it'd be amazing if he could create more turnovers, because creating turnovers is the name of the game defensively. I'm with you. But it can be difficult when guys are kind of avoiding it. You think about like Darrell Revis, when Revis Island, all those years, he didn't have these amazing interception totals because guys just didn't throw his way. They saw
exactly. And I think I should have led that off by saying that as well. Like that is not a hit on Dean at all. Like I think he's a great corner. I think him and Davis are probably one of the better duos in the league at corner. So not a hit on him at all. It's just something like, again, kind of unrealistic in my opinion, because I think guys are going to avoid him, and for him to get 2, I think is good because of how much he's avoided.
For sure. Musab, we're just talking about the kind of maybe not unrealistic, but just kind of more hopeful statistical goals that you'd like to see a guy meet. Are there any stat goals that you'd love to see a guy kind of reach? And maybe it's not going to happen, but it'd be really cool if it did.
I don't know why I came up with this, but I was, reflecting on the past season. You already got Zach, already, ready to chuckle. But I'll tell you this. I think I'm looking forward to seeing Anthony Nelson become more of a role player, and I think get some more action, okay? Because this guy racked up 5.5 sacks last season, okay? He can, he's making some noise, okay? And let me tell you something. Looking at the past couple of years, or even looking at every single year in the history of football, people get injured. Starters get injured. We've had our own issues and all that. So I'll tell you this. I think this is the perfect year for people like Anthony Nelson and, other backups, other second stringers to really get some action and really get some touches. Obviously, compared to others, he's already well known compared to someone like, DeAndre Senat or Yaya Diaby and all that, of course. But I really do think that, he can make a difference. I'm not saying that, him and Shaq are going to go 50-50 and all that. But what I will say is I think that when Shaq needs to go out, or if he has to be out for whatever reason, I think that Anthony Nelson can really make up for it. You know what I'm saying? He can really provide that coverage that, Shaq Barrett was doing. And I don't think a lot of backups, looking at our depth chart right now, I don't think they can really do it as good as him in his position.
Right. For sure. So, I mean, I went JTS double-digit sacks, and Musab, it sounds like you're going double-digit Anthony Nelson sacks, which is wonderful.
Whoa. No. I did not say I did not say double-digit.
Oh, okay. No.
I just think that he might – I think he's going to be – he's going to hit that, 6 mark at least. Maybe, just maybe. We're just kind of on a more kind of fresh start, and I just think that his experience really gives him a boost compared to others. You know what I'm saying? So I think he can definitely make that happen. Absolutely. I don't know about double digit. I'll tell you this. If Anthony Nelson gets double digits, we're definitely like winning the division. All right? Yeah.
Or not, because that means someone else got hurt. So
yeah, but that means you got someone like Anthony Nelson backing up the boys. So who knows?
True. Yeah. No, for sure. I would love to see Anthony Nelson get an expanded role, especially because JTS's stock seems to – I don't know. It's tough. I could see Anthony Nelson very easily stealing JTS's starting spot in the middle of the season, even if, like Musa mentioned, injuries happen. So Anthony Nelson can be thrust into action just out of necessity. But it could really be a kind of a choice thing. They could be like, well, JTS just ain't doing it. He's on the way out. Anthony, go out there, go get him, Tiger. That kind of thing. So I'd love to see an Anthony Nelson, come up year or breakout season, whatever you want to call it. Whatever statistical analysis or goal that you have. But one other thing that's going to have a breakout real soon, if you're not, you're missing out, is the RBLR store. You definitely got to check that out. They've already, they've got kind of the double-digit sack version of a t-shirt thing. I don't know where I'm going with that. Anyways, just check out the store, shop.rblrsports.com. You can use the promo code Cannon, CANNONS, for 10% off your entire order. You can check out, let's see, the Bucs, the Lightning, the Rowdies, the Rays. I mean, all these really great, amazing, successful Tampa teams. You can just, support them. And, it's definitely great, definitely important to check out. So yeah, check it out. But moving on, we're kind of after that shameless shot plug. We're moving on to some more, official questions like the breakout. We kind of mentioned it previously, but who are some guys that you'd love to see have kind of a breakout season? Just guys that just come out of nowhere. I know, Musab, you mentioned Anthony Nelson maybe having a guy or having a great season. But one on each side, if you would. So we'll start on the offensive side of the ball because that's just, more fun. I'll kind of get us going. I think that Cade Otton's going to have a wonderful season. I've been hearing glowing reports out of, just the beginning of the season. He's been, the OTAs and all that stuff. So I'm really hoping that he can have a really good connection with Baker Mayfield. Baker loved to throw to David Njoku in Cleveland during his time there. So maybe if they had developed one of those types of relationships, that would be fantastic. Zach, how about you? Who's your kind of offensive breakout player for the sub?
So I've got two on offense. One I think is more likely than the other, but I think that Payne Durham.
Ooh, out of Purdue, sure, rookie.
Out of Purdue, yeah. I think that obviously Cade Otton is the guy, but I've seen every time I ever watched Purdue, which was not too often, but often enough, Payne Durham was making some kind of either game-stealing touchdown or something to bring their team closer. It felt like no moment was ever too big for him. So from what I'm hearing or seeing is that he has the potential to be one of the steals of the draft, which I would be ecstatic about. And then the other is also someone from this draft is Trey Palmer out of Nebraska. I think that he has the potential to take that third wide receiver spot from Gage and run with it. And I think that I wouldn't be shocked to see him, 700 yards in his rookie season with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans obviously getting majority of the touches.
Right. No, yeah, I love both of those picks. Durham and Palmer are both pretty exciting guys to think about if they're able to, realize their potential for sure. Durham's got that big body, he's a huge and Palmer's got the blazing speed. If he can figure out route running just a little bit, that would be fantastic. He would be very productive at the NFL level because his athleticism is going to play.
Oh yeah, it's off the charts, his athleticism. It's insane.
For sure. So if it's just all about refining more of the technical aspects of football. Musab, how about you? Who's your offensive breakout player for this upcoming season?
Well, sheesh. I mean, I went second string Anthony Nelson, and Zach Blaine said, let me top that and go third string Payne Durham. Okay. Well, I ain't going fourth string, but I'll tell you this. Well, I'll tell you this. What I do like is I agree with the whole Trey Palmer thing, but I'll tell you, it's anyone's game, and I wouldn't be surprised if any of them Russell Gage's spot. But my guy, I'm looking at Cody Mock. Okay. I don't think that, you're going to be seeing a very super visible difference, between our O-line from this year to last year. But I'll tell you this, if any analyst or individual really pays attention, I really do think that, they'll be able to see, the difference he makes. And especially, looking at this year, I'll tell you this, Rashad White's only going to get 1,000 yards or more if our O-line is good, our team chemistry 100%. Is good. Because I'll tell you this right now, I'm thinking maybe, obviously, he's our first stringer. He's the man of the hour. So I'm thinking maybe 700, 800. But if things go really well, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes over 1,000. So I'm going to leave it at Cody Mock as my kind of, guy that's supposed to, break out. And yeah. What about you,
I
man?
love I love the offensive line pick because it's easy to pick a skill position guy. It's easy to
Yeah.
say, oh well, Rashad White's going to have a breakout year, blah blah blah. You can or you can be like me and say Kate Otten because he's a starting tight end. But offensive line is where they're going to win or lose. It's where it's going to really come down to those trenches. You see it all the time. See it every year. Teams with crappy offensive lines, they just they don't do well. The Bucs were a prime example of that last season. So yeah, I definitely love the offensive line pick. And Cody Mauch, I mean, what more can you say? The guy's
For me, man, it's just like puzzling the pieces together. All right, it's not
for
like
sure.
the puzzle's done, but the puzzle's a
coming
lot
together.
closer to being done than before.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they have a lot more depth than last year. I mean, last year when Ryan Jensen went down, it was like the world ended. It was like everything's coming crashing down. No one knows what the heck to do. Luke Gadecki looked awful. He was playing out of position. So now it just seems like you said, the puzzle pieces are a lot closer to being kind of put together. They're not necessarily clicked in, but you're kind of figuring it out. I like the puzzle piece analogy for sure with this offensive line. But yeah, that's kind of our offensive.
Real quick. It's kind of an off-topic question, but it just popped in my head, so I figured I'd have to get it out there. Even with our offensive line being better, because I agree with Musab 100%. I think that our offensive line is going to be better than it was last year, and I think that Mauch is going to be, or Mauch, however you pronounce it, I think is going to be a huge part of that. So I think that's a great pick for a breakout player. But we don't have any running back depth. Do we think, again, sorry, it's a completely random question, but do we think that it's going to make it easier for defenses to tell that we're going to run the ball when Rashad White comes in? Because no one else is putting fear into an offense or into a defense in our running back room.
That's kind of a good point. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the tough part of this running back room is that Chase Edmonds and Keyshawn Vaughn are your backups. I mean,
exactly.
I'm all for. I'm 100% with the crowd that running backs aren't nearly as important as they used to be. Blah blah blah. You don't invest in them, but you still got to have someone good. You still got to have at least some kind of playmaker. You can't just have Zach Blaine and Carter Brantley and Musab Tariq lining up in the backfield.
I mean, if you guys want it, I will gladly take the vet minimum.
Right, 100%. You gotta have guys that at least, like you said, at least put some kind of nervousness into defenders.
Yeah.
And there's just not any of that. But and even Rashad White, I mean, he's the starter, and I think he's very good. But even him, he's not like slippery. He's not Alvin Kamara. He's not a proven bona fide back. So I'm with you. It's going to be kind of tough. Musab, how about you, though? Maybe you're higher on Keyshawn Vaughn and Chase Edmonds than I am?
Watch out. I'm not high on Keyshawn Vaughn or Chase Edmonds, but I'll tell you this, they better get high. You know what I'm saying? They better start picking it up because it don't matter how good, you are as a starter running back. You need some support, okay? And that's what it is. What are you going to be running like a dog, play by play or whatever? And as Zach mentioned, I'll tell you this, I didn't think about it before, but yeah, from an opponent's side, if Chase Edmonds and Keyshawn Vaughn are looking absolutely irrelevant, then clearly, it's Rashad White or they're throwing the ball, so oh man, yeah, this is that question's tough because I don't know what to say about Keyshawn Vaughn and Chase Edmonds. Honestly, as of right now, I don't know how to feel about it.
I don't think anyone does, and that's the issue.
Yeah. That's a great question, Zach. I'm glad you brought that up because if you want if you want Rashad White to run for 1,000 yards, or if you want him to have a breakout season, he can't do it by himself. He can't just be out there. Because he'll be facing loaded boxes if teams start to pick up if Rashad White's out there, then they're probably going to run the ball. But if he's not, or if maybe whatever the case may be, then maybe we can kind of back off a little bit, and it just makes the offense kind of become stagnant. And yeah, it's going to be tough, especially because
it's looking like a 70-30, but Chase Edmonds and Keyshawn are splitting that 30, so it's going like 70-15-15 is what I'm thinking, honestly. And then we'll see, how Chase and Keyshawn do. Maybe, some of them get more of the reps than the other. But wow, yeah, this one actually kind of woke me up, Zach.
Seriously. That's what I'm here for, brother.
We were asleep. We were awake.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so now we'll move on to the defensive side of the ball because defense is just as important as offense, or maybe even more so. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So who are some guys that you want to see break out on the defensive side of the ball? I certainly have two. It's definitely going to be Logan Hall and Zion McCollum, just because Logan Hall was, the first guy drafted last season. He wasn't a first round pick, but he was the first guy off the board for the Bucs. And I didn't see much from him. It didn't seem like he was making a huge impact. And that was a bit disappointing. And Zion McCollum was kind of a steal for me. I thought the Bucs, like, oh man, I love Zion McCollum, and not just because I'm a Pelicans fan and Zion Williamson and CJ McCollum, the combination of their names, but because he actually has a lot of athleticism. And if he can ever put it together, it seems like he would be a pretty solid third option as a cornerback. So those are my two guys. Zach, how about you? Who's your breakout or breakout players on the defensive side of the ball?
I got to agree with Zion. As long as he can stay out of the adult film industry, like the other Zion, I think will be good. But I agree that Zion McCollum is a great candidate for a breakout year. I think he's going to get that third corner spot, and I think that he's going to run with it. I want so bad for Servassier Dennis to have a breakout season. I think that he has the potential to be a very good special teams player this season. I don't think he gets very much playing time on defense because of who we have at linebacker. But if he does, it's kind of an unrealistic goal, but I would love to see him be a breakout player this year.
No, absolutely, especially with Devin White's situation being what it is, which is we don't friggin' know. No one really knows what's going on with him. Musab, how about you? Who's your defensive breakout player for this upcoming season?
I mean, I would just sprinkle that Anthony Nelson I mentioned before, and I really like that Zion McCollum pick. But what I'm going with Yaya Diaby. I was thinking, and when I think of breakout, I mean, I don't know the Merriam-Webster definition of breakout player or whatever. Okay, but I wouldn't say like Kalijah Kancey's success this upcoming season, if it happens, is something to break out. But I'll tell you this, because he doesn't have any Deandre Sinat's behind him. You think that guy's gonna take his spot unless Kancey. Hey, go Bulls, but I don't think that Bulls got it, to be a starter. All right. So I think Kancey's gonna, take care of, his starter role. But I'll tell you this, I think Yaya Diaby's hungry for that starter role, and I wouldn't be surprised if he takes that spot from JTS. All right. Because if JTS was what we expected him to be, we'd already be roaring about him, I feel like all of us would have a lot more confidence in him. And Carter, I think you already mentioned that as well, as he's not what we expected him to be as a first rounder. So I think this is Yaya Diaby's fight to win.
Yeah, I love the Yaya mention and the Anthony Nelson mention, just because, the pass rushing situation seems to be so fluid right now, just because Shaq is coming off a pretty major injury. And JTS is, as we've mentioned ad nauseum, inconsistent. He has not been super on it. He's just, he's got some chances. I mean, he was a starter last year, and he just hasn't really done a whole lot with it, unfortunately. Hopefully that changes. Hopefully we're all wrong and JTS turns into Myles Garrett. That'd be fantastic. I think we'd all be very, very excited about that. But unfortunately, it just doesn't seem to be in the cards up to this point. But yeah, the Kalijah Kancey inclusion, definitely really good. Like you said, he doesn't have a lot of competition at that position. The defensive interior lineman position is just kind of dry. It's basically him, Vita Vea, and then Logan Hall.
Logan Hall?
Right. Greg Haynes, the guy they signed from the Rams.
I was right there with you as well, Musab, because in my mind I was like, well, I think Kancey's going to have a great first season. But then I was like, can you really consider a first-round pick a breakout player? Like, you're expecting him to make an impact day one, unless you're drafting a quarterback. But, like, even then, 9 times out of 10, you expect them to make an impact day one. So I think Kancey is a great choice, but I also was like, I can't put him as like a breakout player because we're going to expect him to put up numbers. We would be looking more at a bust if he doesn't put up numbers. So I had that same issue of trying to figure out whether to put him in my breakout player or not.
Right. And just for those at home who are curious, what the Oxford definition of breakout as an adjective is what we're talking about is suddenly and extremely popular, successful. So Musab's right on the money. You can't really call Kalijah Kancey a breakout player because he was a first round pick. So he's already kind of, teaming for success. He was already a projected first-round pick, and the Bucs gave him that. So you can't really say, oh, well, he just kind of came out of nowhere. Like, it's sudden. Like, no, it's kind of a foreseen thing. So yeah, if y'all are still listening, we really appreciate you tuning in. We're kind of coming in towards the end of the episode. It's been a really fun one. We kind of tried to make it a little more laid back tonight, just because we're getting into the depths of the off season, and we want to shoot the shit. Talk about some weird stuff like, is a hot dog a sandwich? Hope y'all enjoyed that. We're definitely going to have some kind of more interesting philosophical discussions like that coming up. So definitely tune in for that. If you liked what you heard, definitely hit that like and subscribe button, or follow us on any of our socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we have a TikTok now. I know my boy, Mr. Zach Blaine, is on it. Got to point the right direction.
It's one of those.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Definitely got to check him out. We really appreciate you listening in, and we'll see you next time. And as always, go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.